On a bright Saturday morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains of a cozy white-roofed house in suburban Los Angeles. Emily, a bright-eyed 7-year-old, woke up with excitement bubbling inside her. Today was her birthday, and she had been counting down to this day all week. Rachel Carter, Emily's mother, was arranging fresh roses into a crystal vase on the breakfast table. She smiled warmly as she heard her daughter rush down the stairs in her sparkly Elsa princess dress. "Happy birthday, my little princess," Rachel said, kissing her forehead. "Where's Daddy, Mom? He promised to take us to Disneyland today." Emily looked expectantly toward the front door. Rachel hesitated for a moment before smiling gently. "I'm sure he's getting your surprise ready." But deep down, her heart was uneasy. By 9 a.m., Rachel had finished setting the breakfast table when her phone buzzed. Jason Carter, her husband, was calling. A chill ran down her spine. "Hey, sweetheart. I'm sorry. I have to attend an urgent meeting with some investors from Singapore today. I can't go with you and Emily." Jason's voice was brisk, almost rehearsed. "Jason, it's our daughter's birthday. You promised," Rachel said, her voice tight with disbelief. "This deal could change everything for the company. Please, just cover for me today," he said, and hung up before she could respond. Rachel stared at the phone in silence. Emily, oblivious, was giggling at her pancake shaped like a heart. Rachel's chest ached. This was the 7th birthday Jason had missed, only showing up once, when Emily was too little to remember. Today was no different. Not wanting her daughter's day to be ruined, Rachel made a decision. She booked a luxurious hotel room in Santa Barbara, a scenic coastal city an hour's drive away. There, an old castle-turned resort was holding special tours, with a water park and a magic show later that evening. It would be a perfect alternative. "Sweetheart, how about a surprise trip? We're going to real-life castle today," Rachel beamed. "Really, Mom?" Emily squealed, eyes sparkling with joy. She grabbed her pink backpack and her beloved teddy bear, bouncing into the car. Rachel felt her heart ease a little, seeing Emily's happiness. Around 11 a.m., they arrived at the Monarch Hotel, a 5-star estate with elegant stone towers and ocean views. Rachel pulled up to the entrance, handed her keys to the valet, and guided Emily through the grand doors. But as they stepped into the lobby, Rachel froze. Inside, a lavish birthday party was already underway. Blue and white balloons floated through the air. A long banquet table was stacked with elegant cupcakes, and sharply dressed waitstaff circulated with glasses of champagne. The chandeliers cast a golden glow across the marble floor. But none of that held her attention. Standing in the center of it all, smiling proudly, was Jason Carter. He was dressed in a crisp black suit, crouched down beside a 6-year-old boy, laughing. Holding his other hand was a stunning blonde woman in a shimmering red designer dress. She was none other than Vanessa Morgan, CEO of Morgan Interiors, a name Rachel knew all too well. On the massive LED screen above the party, glowing letters read, "Happy 6th birthday, Aiden Carter, son of Carter Holdings." Rachel's fingers tightened around her daughter's hand. Jason hadn't gone to work. He hadn't missed Emily's birthday for a business emergency. He was here, throwing a grand birthday celebration for another child, with another woman. "Mom, it's Daddy. He's here too," Emily shouted happily. Before Rachel could react, Emily ran forward, weaving through the crowd. The upbeat music faded as the little girl's voice echoed across the ballroom. "Daddy, are you here to celebrate with me too?" The room went silent. Hundreds of eyes turned toward the little girl in the pink dress hugging Jason's leg. Jason's face drained of color. Vanessa frowned. Guests began whispering. "Who's that kid? Did Carter have another daughter?" Vanessa stepped closer, her eyes narrowing. "Jason, what's going on?" Jason pulled Emily away, panic flickering in his eyes. I don't know this girl. She must be mistaking me for someone else." Then, to Vanessa, "It's just a confused kid. Must be a mix-up." Emily looked up, tears already welling in her eyes. "I'm Emily. Don't you remember me, Daddy?" Vanessa pushed her aside sharply. "Don't touch me, filthy little brat." Rachel rushed forward, scooping her daughter into her arms. She glared at Jason, her voice cold and cutting. Jason Carter, explain. Is this the emergency meeting you mentioned? Jason opened his mouth, but said nothing. Vanessa chuckled, venom in her tone. Oh, I see. One of those desperate women who send kids in to scam successful men. How pathetic. Guests started murmuring again. Trying to trap a rich man with a child? Disgusting. She must be some gold digger from nowhere. Rachel took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. She turned toward Jason, enunciating clearly. So you're saying you don't know me? You're not Emily's father. Jason's jaw tightened. I don't know either of you. Emily burst into tears, burying her face in Rachel's shoulder. Vanessa smirked and stepped closer, sizing Rachel up. You're pretty, I'll give you that. But Jason's not going to fall for some leftover housewife with no ambition. Real men need real women, not freeloaders living off their husband's money. Rachel said nothing. She kissed her daughter's forehead gently, then looked up. You're Vanessa Morgan, aren't you? CEO of Morgan Interiors. Vanessa arched an eyebrow. You know me? I don't recall meeting you. Rachel's smile was cool and calm. Of course I know you. Because years ago, when we were selecting vendors for the West Coast projects, Jason Carter insisted I consider Morgan Interiors. Praised your company to the skies. Jason stiffened. Rachel added softly. He didn't realize I had the final say on that contract. Vanessa blinked. Rachel looked her in the eyes. I signed that deal to please my husband. But if I could raise your company up, I could just as easily pull the plug. Then she turned, holding Emily's hand tightly. Come on, sweetheart. We made a mistake. That's not your father. As they walked away under the heavy silence, Rachel kept her back straight. But inside, she was already making 4 very important phone calls. Because this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The mocking laughter and scornful looks from the crowd still echoed in Rachel's mind as she led Emily out of the ballroom. Every step felt like a stab to the chest, but she kept her head high and never looked back. Behind her, voices deliberately rose just loud enough for her to hear. How pathetic. Using a child to trap a rich man and getting exposed in public. Some women have no shame. Pretending to be someone's wife, what a joke. Rachel clutched her daughter tighter as they stepped into the elevator. Emily sobbed quietly in her arms, her little hands gripping her mother's dress, tears spilling freely. Mom, did Daddy really not recognize me? The girl asked in a trembling voice, as if she feared the answer more than anything. Rachel held her close and kissed her forehead. It's okay, sweetheart. Maybe Daddy forgot, but Mommy never will. Tonight, Mommy's going to throw you the biggest birthday party ever. Would you like that? Emily nodded slowly, her lashes still wet. She curled into Rachel's arms like it was the only safe place left in the world. Rachel lifted her chin. Her eyes were no longer wet. The pain had turned into a flame, sharp, cold, and ready to burn. They arrived at the VIP suite overlooking the grand ballroom. From the wide glass window, Rachel could see the entire celebration unfold below. The glamorous guests, the glittering chandeliers, the soft jazz music, and the man who used to be her husband, laughing as if he hadn't just denied his own child moments ago. Rachel took out her phone and made 4 crucial calls. The first was to the bank. All of Jason's credit cards were supplementary cards under her control. The second was to the head of PR at Carter Holdings. Prepare a press release. I'll send the details in 1 hour. The third call went to her company's legal team. She ordered a full review of Morgan Interiors contracts, especially clauses for immediate termination. The last call was to Madeline Ross, the president of the city's business association and Rachel's closest friend. You free? Rachel asked calmly. What's going on? Madeline replied. There's a party. You weren't invited. Oh, then I guess I should make an appearance. Around 5 p.m., Aiden's birthday party reached its peak. Jason, Vanessa, and the little boy stood beside a towering 3-tier cake, raising their glasses as the crowd applauded. Emily sat quietly in Rachel's lap, watching through the glass. Her voice barely a whisper. Mom, why did Daddy skip my birthday, but go to someone else's? Am I not his daughter? Rachel pulled her closer, her chest aching. But her voice was calm. It doesn't matter, sweetheart. I'm here now. And I'll never let you wait alone again. Emily nodded and nuzzled into her shoulder, slowly relaxing. Just then, the ballroom doors swung open. Heads turned. Madeline Ross walked in, wearing a sleek black gown, her hair elegantly pinned up, eyes sharp and commanding. A murmur swept through the crowd. Is that Madeline Ross? She wasn't on the guest list. Vanessa's face paled. She rushed forward with a nervous smile. Madeline, we didn't expect you. If we'd known, we would have prepared something special. Madeline looked Vanessa over, then turned to Jason. I heard Mr. Carter is throwing a party for his son today. Quite the spectacle. And I must say, it's a bold move to exclude me. Jason fumbled for words. Vanessa chuckled awkwardly. Oh, we thought you were traveling. Madeline cut her off. This hotel is known for its exquisite wine. I do hope the party lives up to its location. Eager to save face, Jason quickly turned to a waiter. Open 50 bottles of Lafite Rothschild, 1982. Immediately, the crowd murmured in awe. Vanessa forced a proud smile. But moments later, the server returned, looking uneasy. I'm sorry, Mr. Carter, but your credit card has been declined. The room fell into stunned silence. Jason snatched the card, swiped it again. No luck. He pulled out another. And another. All declined. Must be a system error, Vanessa said loudly, her voice shaky. But Jason knew the truth. Every single card was under Rachel's name, and she had just cut him off. He rushed to call her. Rachel sat at the sweets table, sipping her drink. She picked up calmly. Rachel, I'm sorry. Aiden doesn't have a father, and Vanessa, she's an old friend. I was just trying to help, that's all. Rachel said nothing. Jason continued. I only denied you and Emily because I didn't want Aiden to get hurt. Emily's older now. She'll understand, right? Please, just unlock the cards. You're making me lose face. And my dignity is your dignity too, isn't it? Rachel replied slowly. Jason Carter, have you forgotten? You're just a Winston son-in-law. Jason fell silent. Rachel came from the Winston family, a legacy of wealth and power. Carter Holdings only rose because of her investments and connections. Jason's tone turned sharp. Listen here. While you were off on your 6-month trip, I took control of the company. Tomorrow, I'll call a board meeting and vote you out as chairwoman. Rachel smirked. Then maybe you should check tonight's business news. She hung up. Turning to her assistant, Rachel nodded. Release the statement. Title it, Jason Carter officially removed as CEO of Carter Holdings. Madeline, now seated beside her, clinked glasses. To justice. Rachel returned the toast with a faint smile. Thank you for showing up. Right on cue. Madeline laughed. The idiot forgot the woman who once outplayed 3 Wall Street firms is not someone to mess with. Rachel didn't answer. She rose and looked down at the chaos unfolding below. A group of men in business suits entered the ballroom. One shouted, Ms. Morgan, your company owes us 3 months of unpaid furniture materials. You have money for parties, but not your debts. Vanessa snapped. My husband is the CEO of Carter Holdings. You dare. A voice interrupted. Breaking news. Jason Carter has just been fired. Guests scrambled to check their phones. On the ballroom LED screen appeared the headline. Breaking. Jason Carter removed as CEO of Carter Holdings. Vanessa turned ghostly pale. Jason looked crushed. The crowd began to murmur, stepping back from the couple. Rachel descended the stairs, holding Emily's hand. She stopped in front of Vanessa, her tone soft but steely. Still feel like placing your bet, Ms. Morgan? The ballroom, once filled with clinking glasses and cheerful chatter, now echoed with gasps and hurried whispers. The screen flashing, Jason Carter removed as CEO, towered over the stunned guests. Even the ornate chandeliers seemed to dim under the weight of the scandal unfolding beneath them. Jason stood frozen, his hands hanging awkwardly at his sides. His jaw tightened, but he didn't speak. Vanessa's face, moments ago glowing with smug triumph, had turned the color of ash. The guests who had once surrounded them like bees to honey were now quietly backing away, pulling out their phones, texting updates, and avoiding eye contact. Jason, Vanessa hissed through gritted teeth. Do something. Jason slowly turned to Rachel, who had just reached the last step of the marble staircase, holding Emily's hand. His gaze was hollow, his posture deflated. Rachel tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. "You always liked attention, Jason," she said softly. "I hope you're enjoying the spotlight now." Vanessa tried to recover her composure. She flipped her hair and scoffed loudly. "So what? He lost one job. Big deal. I still run Morgan Interiors. We don't need your charity." As if on cue, a sharply dressed man stepped forward from the crowd. His name tag read Vincent Hart, Global Materials Incorporated. He looked at Vanessa with thinly veiled irritation. "Actually, Ms. Morgan," he said coldly, "your company owes us $2.4 million in unpaid inventory. We've attempted to collect for 3 months. Since you made it clear you have the budget for 5-tier cakes and vintage wine, perhaps it's time to settle your balance." Vanessa's face contorted. "My husband," she started. "He's not your husband," Rachel cut in, "and he's no longer CEO, which means no more protection, no more credit, and definitely no more public funding." Gasps rang out again. The silence afterward was deafening. Jason opened his mouth to speak, but Rachel raised a hand. "Don't," she said, calm but commanding. "Every time you open your mouth, it only gets worse." She glanced at the event photographer who had been snapping away all evening. "You could delete every photo with my daughter in it, or I'll personally make sure you never work another private event in this city again." The photographer nodded and quickly began filtering his files. Rachel crouched down to Emily's level. The little girl looked up at her, still confused, still hurt. "Mommy," she whispered, "can we go home?" Rachel smiled and shook her head. "Not yet, sweetheart. We're going to have our own party." Less than 2 hours later, on the rooftop of a quiet beachside restaurant, Rachel's private event unfolded like a dream. Golden fairy lights wrapped around white columns. Tables were set with pastel balloons, plates of Emily's favorite treats, mini strawberry shortcakes, chocolate truffles, and vanilla cupcakes with rainbow sprinkles. A live acoustic guitarist strummed soft tunes under the setting sun. Rachel had invited only a handful of people: Madeline, a few of Emily's classmates and their parents, her assistant Mia, and Chef Thomas, Emily's favorite pastry chef, who had specially baked a glittering unicorn-themed birthday cake. Emily's eyes widened in amazement when she saw the scene. This is all for me." Rachel crouched down, kissed her cheek, and nodded. "Yes, baby. Every single piece of it. But it's so pretty. And there's no one yelling," Emily whispered, as if afraid it would vanish. Rachel hugged her tightly. "Because this is what love looks like. This is what family feels like." The little girl looked up at her mother and then, for the first time that day, smiled from her heart. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in shades of lavender and gold, everyone gathered to sing happy birthday. Emily stood between Rachel and Madeline, her hands pressed together in front of the cake. Rachel whispered, "Make a wish." Emily closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and then blew out the candles. Madeline leaned in with a smile. "What did you wish for?" Emily grinned. "I wish that Mommy and I will always be together, and that Mommy won't be sad anymore." Rachel felt her throat tighten. She swallowed the emotion and simply pulled her daughter into another hug. Later that evening, as the children played with glow-in-the-dark bracelets and chased bubbles around the terrace, Madeline and Rachel sat at a corner table, sipping wine. Madeline glanced toward the sea, then back at her friend. "Think Jason will try to fight back?" Rachel chuckled. "He might, but he doesn't have the leverage anymore. Once the board saw the evidence I've been collecting, it was unanimous." Madeline nodded approvingly. "You could have done this months ago. I wanted Emily to have her dad," Rachel said, her voice soft. "But today proved I can't protect her by staying silent." "She didn't lose a father today," Madeline said. "She discovered her mother's strength." Rachel smiled, but her gaze drifted toward the darkening sky. "Maybe now we can finally live in peace." Across town, Jason sat in a dark hotel room alone. The TV was on mute, broadcasting news of his dismissal. His phone buzzed every few minutes with messages from board members, investors, and journalists. Vanessa had stormed out hours ago after a screaming match. She called him useless, pathetic, a disgrace. Jason rubbed his temples and opened the last message he received. It was a photo, taken at sunset, from an anonymous number. Emily, glowing in fairy lights, stood beside a unicorn cake, smiling up at her mother. Jason stared at it for a long time, his hands trembling. Then he turned the phone over, placed it face down on the table, and poured himself a drink. Outside, the headlines were already changing. Winston heiress reclaims power. Rachel Carter's silent rise. Jason Carter's downfall. Betrayal, denial, and public humiliation. But in the rooftop garden by the sea, none of that mattered. Rachel held Emily's hand as they walked down the candlelit path, the waves whispering below. "Happy birthday, my brave girl," she said. "Best birthday ever," Emily replied, beaming. And somewhere between the stars above and the water below, Rachel Carter let go of the past and never looked back. 3 days after the birthday that shattered his world, Jason Carter stood in front of the mirrored elevator of his lawyer's downtown office building. He stared at his own reflection, disheveled suit, bloodshot eyes, jaw tight with desperation. Once hailed as one of Los Angeles's most promising CEOs, Jason had fallen from grace in the most humiliating way, publicly, swiftly, and at the hands of the one woman who knew him better than anyone, Rachel Carter. But Jason wasn't ready to fade into irrelevance. Not yet. He had spent the last 72 hours calling in every favor, meeting with crisis managers, and pouring through Carter Holdings' legal framework. And today, he had a plan. A risky one, but could work. If he could get just 5 board members to question Rachel's decision, he could file for wrongful removal and trigger an emergency shareholder vote. He straightened his tie and stepped into the conference room. Waiting for him were David Lynn, an old family friend and former board chair, and Marcia Price, a conservative investor known for valuing stability over scandal. "Jason," David said cautiously, "this better be worth my time." Jason forced a confident smile. "You're looking at a man who's been set up and who has proof." Meanwhile, in her sunlit office overlooking Westwood Boulevard, Rachel Carter was flipping through the latest quarterly reports with her assistant, Mia. "Carter Holdings stock has stabilized after the shakeup," Mia said, glancing at the laptop. "And Morgan Interior's contracts have all been canceled by our partners." Rachel sipped her coffee, unbothered. Vanessa won't recover. She had Jason shielding her for years. Now she's got lawsuits, debt, and no leverage. "And Jason?" Mia asked cautiously. Rachel's expression didn't change. "He'll try something, but whatever it is, he's too late." As if on cue, her phone buzzed. Unknown caller. Rachel answered calmly. "Rachel Carter." Jason's voice was careful, almost performative. "Rachel, listen. I want to talk. Not argue, just talk. Can we meet? I don't see what we have left to discuss. Look, I've made mistakes. I admit that. But I didn't start this war. You did when you went public." Rachel let out a quiet laugh. "You threw our daughter under the bus, denied your family in front of hundreds of people, and you're blaming me for what followed." Jason's tone hardened. "You want to destroy me? Fine. But remember, Emily will grow up knowing what you did to her father." Rachel paused. Then she said coldly, "Emily will grow up knowing the truth, and I trust her to understand the difference between shame and strength." She hung up. Later that afternoon, Jason arrived at the offices of EverWest Media Group, the PR firm that handled several corporate redemption stories in the past. His goal? Reframe his image, cast Rachel as a vindictive heiress and himself as a flawed but loving father. The firm's executive, Tina Mallory, listened to his pitch in silence. When he finished, she tapped a pen against her notebook and said, "You want to manipulate public opinion, but you have no custody, no job, no standing. All we'd be selling is a sob story. And unless there's more scandal to reveal, it won't stick." Jason leaned in, eyes narrowing. "What if I told you Rachel had insider dealings with Madeline Ross? That the board vote was influenced illegally?" Tina raised an eyebrow. "Do you have proof?" Jason hesitated. "No," he admitted, "but I can get it." Tina shook her head. "Come back when you do. Until then, there's nothing we can build." Jason stormed out, frustrated and increasingly desperate. The next morning, Rachel arrived at her office to find Mia waiting with a thick envelope in hand. This was delivered anonymously, Mia said. It's troubling. Inside were printouts of private emails between Rachel and Madeline, joking about Jason's incompetence and discussing board members by name. While none were explicitly illegal, they could be used to suggest collusion or abuse of power. Rachel scanned them quickly. He's trying to shake the tree. See what falls. Mia looked nervous. If he leaks this, it could cause doubt. Rachel nodded slowly. Then we get ahead of it. She picked up her phone and called Madeline. That evening, Rachel appeared on CBS Business Hour, sitting across from host Kelly Stone, who had a reputation for exposing both corporate villains and unlikely heroes. In a crisp navy suit, Rachel looked poised and unshaken. Mrs. Carter, Kelly began, there's talk that your ex-husband is preparing to sue Carter Holdings for wrongful dismissal. Some allege you used personal influence to sway the board. Rachel didn't blink. I didn't sway anyone. I showed them the facts. Jason misused company funds, compromised our supplier integrity, and most importantly, failed the people who trusted him. Kelly leaned in, and the rumors that this was retaliation over a personal betrayal? Rachel took a slow breath. Personal betrayal may hurt, but I didn't act from emotion. I acted because the company and my daughter deserved better. The segment ended with Rachel receiving a standing ovation from the live studio audience. 2 days later, Jason's final attempt to spin the narrative failed. Everwest Media dropped him as a client, citing lack of credible evidence. His emergency shareholder vote was denied on legal grounds. David Lynn rescinded his support. Even Marcia Price distanced herself, saying, Rachel Carter's leadership may be firm, but it's fair. She's not just a CEO. She's a mother fighting for her child's future. Jason sat alone in his apartment, staring at the letter from his lawyer. We advise dropping all action against Rachel Carter to avoid further financial loss and public backlash. Outside, the world moved on. But inside his shattered pride, Jason Carter realized he hadn't just lost his job. He had lost the woman who once gave him everything, then took it all back. And he knew she would never let him get close again. The breeze in Malibu carried the faint scent of salt and summer grass as Rachel Carter stood beneath a wide sycamore tree, watching her daughter run barefoot across the lawn. Emily's laughter echoed over the hill, mingling with birdsong and ocean wind. It was the first weekend of spring break, and Rachel had rented a private cottage for just the two of them. No meetings, no headlines, no reminders of what had been lost or reclaimed. It had been 3 weeks since the night Rachel took back her dignity, her company, and her voice. 3 weeks since Jason's final, failed attempt at redemption. And 3 weeks since Rachel had vowed never again to let someone else define her worth. But today wasn't about victory. It was about closure. Mommy, Emily called, waving a piece of paper. Look, I made us a list of all the animals we might see here. Rachel smiled and crouched down as Emily ran to her. Let's see. Rabbits, deer, birds, a mountain lion? Oh, I hope that one stays far away. Emily giggled and clutched her mother's hand. Rachel brushed a curl behind her daughter's ear. You're happy, aren't you? Emily nodded earnestly. I like when it's just us. You smile more. Rachel felt something soft unravel inside her. She had spent so long being strong. Now, she allowed herself the tenderness too. I have a surprise for you, she whispered. Emily's eyes lit up. Is it ice cream? Rachel laughed. Even better. Later that afternoon, as golden sunlight spilled over the patio, a small car pulled up the gravel path. From it stepped a woman in her late 60s with kind eyes and a box tucked under one arm. Emily peeked through the screen door. Mommy, someone's here. Rachel walked to the door, opened it, and smiled warmly. Hi, Mrs. Baxter. Thank you for coming. The woman smiled back. I brought everything we discussed. And something extra. Emily was curious but polite. She followed them to the backyard, where Rachel had laid out a table with a cloth, paints, and blank books. Emily, Rachel said softly, Mrs. Baxter is going to help us start a very special project. A book. About you. About me. About our real story. Emily tilted her head. A story? A book where we write what really happened. Not what people said. Not what someone else decided. Just us. Mrs. Baxter unpacked the supplies. It's called a memory journal. It's your story, told the way you remember it. And you can add pictures, drawings, even poems if you want. Emily looked stunned. Can we put the birthday party in it? Rachel smiled. Yes, especially that. They spent hours under the setting sun. Rachel writing memories in quiet script, Emily drawing stick figures and birthday cakes with glittery pens. Mrs. Baxter guided gently, offering prompts like, "What's your happiest memory of Mommy? If you could give your mom a superpower, what would it be? What makes you feel brave?" By the end of the evening, Emily had filled 6 pages. Rachel had written a letter she never thought she'd write. To my daughter, you are stronger than you know. You reminded me how to fight with grace. You're the reason I stood back up. You're not just my child. You're my compass. Love, Mom. Rachel tucked the letter in the front pocket of the journal. The next morning, Rachel sat at the outdoor table, sipping tea, when Mia arrived with a document in hand. She had driven up for a quick work update, but brought more than just files. "We've just finalized the Winston Foundation Scholarship Fund," Mia said, "and I thought you'd want to see the name." Rachel took the folder and opened it. The Emily Carter Grant, for children of single mothers. Her breath caught. Her eyes welled up. Emily peeked over her shoulder and read it slowly. "That's my name." Rachel looked at her and nodded. "It's for kids like you. Brave ones, whose moms might not have had much help. Now we'll help them." Emily threw her arms around Rachel's neck. "You're the best, Mommy," Rachel whispered, "because you made me want to be." Elsewhere in the city, Jason Carter sat in a small apartment over a liquor store in Silver Lake. His suits were in storage. His name had disappeared from headlines. His bank account, once 7 figures, was now used mostly for rent and ramen noodles. He had tried, for a week, to schedule a visitation with Emily, but the court had denied him temporary rights, citing emotional neglect and public denial. The judge's words still haunted him. "This child deserves more than a father who claims her only when it's convenient." Jason opened a browser window and typed Rachel Carter into the search bar. Her image appeared instantly. Her TEDx talk, her CBS interview, her smiling beside Madeline Ross at a charity gala. He stared at the screen. Then he closed the laptop, and for once, didn't open it again. Back in Malibu, on their final night at the cottage, Rachel and Emily sat on a blanket by the fire pit, roasting marshmallows under the stars. "Can I tell you something?" Emily asked. "Of course. I thought birthdays were about presents and balloons, but now I think it's really about who shows up." Rachel looked at her daughter, awed by her quiet wisdom. "You're right. It's about who stays." Emily leaned her head on her mom's shoulder. "You always stay." Rachel kissed the top of her head. "And I always will." The waves sang in the distance. A soft wind curled around them like an embrace. And for the first time in years, Rachel Carter felt not victorious, but whole.